The world has always looked to Europe, Asia, and America for the next big breakthrough. But a silent revolution is emerging from a place often underestimated in the global tech race, Africa. What was once dismissed as impossible is now taking shape in workshops, universities, and small startups across the continent. 5 inventions powered not by traditional fuel or expensive infrastructure, but by the idea of limitless, self-sustaining energy. These aren't science fiction concepts. They are real, tested, and some are already transforming lives in ways the world is only beginning to understand. The first is an engine that runs on nothing more than the natural resonance of the Earth's magnetic field. Born from the vision of a Ghanaian inventor, this machine produces continuous electricity without a single drop of gasoline or a charging cable. In remote villages where the grid has never reached, families light their homes, power their radios, and even charge devices, all without ever paying an electric bill. News of the invention spread quietly at first, dismissed as a curiosity, until engineers from abroad arrived to see it for themselves. What they found was undeniable: free, stable energy running day and night. The second breakthrough emerged from Nigeria, where a group of young scientists discovered how to convert atmospheric humidity into direct electricity. While the world debates the future of solar and wind, these engineers tap into the very air around us. Their prototype powers homes during even the darkest nights and driest seasons, creating a stable alternative where traditional renewables often fail. It's a simple, elegant solution to a problem global energy giants have spent billions trying to solve. The third invention, hidden in the highlands of Kenya, looks deceptively ordinary: a sleek electric car. But unlike Tesla or any Western brand, this vehicle requires no charging station, no grid connection. It regenerates power from every motion, storing and recycling energy with near-perfect efficiency. For weeks, it can run endlessly, crossing vast distances without stopping for a recharge. To those who see it on the road, it appears like any other EV. But to insiders, it represents the death of charging infrastructure and possibly the end of fossil fuel dominance in the transport industry. The fourth innovation takes us to South Africa, where a team of inventors has created microgenerators that fit into small devices, phones, laptops, even medical equipment. These generators run indefinitely, harvesting small amounts of ambient energy and recycling it. Imagine never plugging in a phone again, never losing power during an emergency, never worrying about batteries. The concept seems like fantasy, but demonstrations have shown smartphones playing video for days without dropping a single percent. The fifth, perhaps the most ambitious, comes from a collaboration across several African nations: a scalable free energy grid designed not for profit, but for people. Small modules that can be installed in homes, farms, schools, and entire neighborhoods. Instead of massive power plants and billion-dollar infrastructure, this grid grows organically, shared from village to village, city to city. It's a vision of energy independence, one that could liberate entire economies from the grip of oil, gas, and foreign control. Yet, with such transformative potential comes danger. These inventions threaten trillion-dollar industries built on scarcity and dependency. Whispers already circulate of corporations trying to silence or buy out the inventors. Some prototypes vanish mysteriously, others face accidental fires or sudden shutdowns. But the resilience of the innovators and the communities backing them has only grown stronger. Across Africa, the narrative is shifting. For decades, the continent has been seen as a consumer of foreign technology. Now, it stands on the edge of becoming the producer of the world's most disruptive force: free, unlimited energy. And as this quiet revolution grows, the question no longer is whether the world will take notice, but whether it will be too late to stop it. When the first whispers of these inventions reached beyond Africa, the reactions were immediate and divided. In America, the news cycle erupted. Some outlets praised the ingenuity, calling it the dawn of a new energy era. Others dismissed it as impossible, labeling it a publicity stunt or a clever hoax. Yet behind closed doors, government agencies and corporations scrambled. If true, these inventions didn't just represent competition. They posed an existential threat to trillion-dollar industries built on oil, gas, and even existing renewable energy infrastructure. China, ever alert to technological disruption, quietly dispatched delegations of scientists to visit universities and small labs across Africa. They weren't there to doubt, they were there to learn, to replicate, to acquire. Their state-backed companies offered partnerships, research exchanges, even entire factories built on African soil. To some inventors, this looked like opportunity. To others, it was the first step in another kind of colonization, this time not of land, but of ideas. Europe's response was more cautious, almost defensive. Politicians debated openly about the risks. Energy giants lobbied heavily against allowing unverified technology to enter their markets, warning of safety hazards and economic instability. But citizens, tired of rising energy bills and climate anxieties, flooded social media with demands to see these inventions for themselves. The pressure grew, and demonstrations began in major cities, where activists carried signs reading, "If Africa can do it, why can't we?" In Africa itself, a new wave of pride and urgency swept through. The inventors were no longer working in obscurity. They had become symbols of a continent refusing to be underestimated. Governments that once ignored them now began offering protection, funding, and in some cases, military oversight to guard their facilities from sabotage. The air was charged not just with possibility, but with tension. For every step forward, the resistance deepened. Oil conglomerates launched massive PR campaigns, painting free energy as unstable and dangerous. Leaked documents revealed covert attempts to bribe inventors into selling patents, only for the patents to vanish into corporate vaults, never to be seen again. Meanwhile, activists warned that if Africa didn't safeguard its own innovations, the world would once again strip the continent of its wealth, not gold or diamonds this time, but the future itself. Still, the movement was unstoppable. Videos of the self-powered car racing through highways without charging went viral worldwide. Families living off-grid in Ghana posted clips of homes fully lit by magnetic resonance generators. A South African student streamed himself using a phone powered indefinitely without plugging in. These weren't polished corporate ads, they were raw, undeniable proof that the impossible was happening. And then, something unexpected shifted the balance. A shipment of the microgenerators destined for rural clinics in East Africa somehow made its way onto the international market. Within days, videos from Germany, Brazil, and even the United States showed people unboxing and testing them. The devices worked exactly as promised, endless power in the palm of your hand. The genie was out of the bottle. For the first time in history, the control of energy, a force that had defined nations, wars, and empires, was slipping from the grip of the powerful and into the hands of ordinary people. The moment those microgenerators appeared in the hands of ordinary citizens across the world, the balance of power began to fracture. Governments and corporations panicked. In Washington, emergency meetings were held, not about whether the technology was real, that question was already answered, but how to contain it. Intelligence agencies feared a collapse of the oil market, a destabilization of entire economies, and the end of industries that had shaped geopolitics for over a century. But containment proved impossible. Each time a video was taken down, 10 more appeared. Each time a shipment was intercepted, another slipped through. The blueprints themselves began leaking onto hidden forums, spreading faster than officials could censor. What had started as a handful of African prototypes was now a global wildfire of replication, experimentation, and innovation. China was the first superpower to openly acknowledge it. Rather than suppress, they announced their intention to integrate the technology into national infrastructure, boasting that they would lead the next energy revolution. Western corporations accused them of theft, but it hardly mattered. Chinese factories worked around the clock, reverse engineering and mass-producing the designs. The cost of traditional batteries plummeted overnight, and oil futures crashed in a single week. Meanwhile, in Africa, the inventors found themselves at the center of a storm. Journalists camped outside their homes, universities turned their names into banners of pride, and local communities guarded them fiercely. For once, the narrative of Africa as a continent in need of rescue was reversed. It was Africa holding the keys to the future. But with fame came danger. Surveillance drones were spotted over labs. Rumors circulated of car accidents, sudden illnesses, and unexplained fires destroying workshops. Yet each attempt at sabotage only fueled suspicion and strengthened the movement's resolve. In Europe, protests erupted as citizens demanded their governments adopt the technology. Why pay skyrocketing energy bills when people in Ghana or Kenya lived in villages with free, self-sustaining electricity? Activists occupied oil company headquarters, calling the industry obsolete. Politicians hesitated, torn between corporate lobbyists and the undeniable reality that the world was changing. The real turning point came when a group of African innovators made a daring decision. Instead of selling out or waiting for governments to act, they gathered in a quiet location and released an open-source manifesto online. The document contained detailed blueprints of the self-powered generators, the atmospheric energy converters, and even the regenerative vehicle systems. Energy, it declared, is not a commodity to be owned. It is the birthright of humanity. The effect was immediate and irreversible. Within hours, the files were downloaded millions of times. Within days, 3D printing shops and makerspaces across the world began constructing the devices. Within weeks, entire communities, once dependent on fragile grids, were lighting up their homes, powering their farms, and running their businesses independently. And with every installation, with every family freed from an energy bill, with every driver who no longer needed to stop at a charging station, the old order trembled. Oil stocks tanked further, traditional utilities filed for bankruptcy, and nations that once wielded power through energy exports saw their influence erode. But this wasn't just about economics. It was about identity, sovereignty, and the shift of global power itself. Africa, long seen as the exploited, was now the pioneer. Its inventions didn't just level the playing field, they redrew it entirely. The question that began to haunt boardrooms and war rooms alike was simple. Could this new world be managed, or had humanity just entered an age where no one, not governments, not corporations, not empires, could ever again control the flow of power? At first, the world teetered between chaos and opportunity. The spread of free energy had shattered old systems, but the response from those who stood to lose the most grew more aggressive by the day. Oil-rich nations watched their wealth evaporate, their influence slipping through their fingers like sand. For them, this wasn't just an economic challenge, it was an existential threat. In closed-door meetings, alliances were formed. There were whispers of sanctions against African nations, covert operations to sabotage labs, even the possibility of military intervention disguised as stability missions. Trade wars erupted almost overnight. Countries that embraced the open-source design surged ahead, slashing energy costs and powering industries at near-zero expense. Nations that resisted fell behind, clinging to collapsing infrastructures. The global balance of power shifted unpredictably. African nations that had once been ignored in international negotiations now found themselves courted by superpowers desperate for cooperation, or desperate for control. But amid the chaos, something remarkable happened. Communities, not corporations, began leading the way. In rural India, farmers built their own atmospheric energy harvesters using blueprints first shared in Nigeria. In Brazil, neighborhoods once plagued by blackouts powered their homes independently, ignoring corrupt utility companies altogether. In Europe, grassroots groups formed energy cooperatives, swapping designs, sharing resources, and turning entire towns into self-sustaining hubs. Humanity was doing something it had never done before, breaking free from centralized energy control. The backlash, however, intensified. In America, media outlets funded by fossil fuel lobbies launched smear campaigns, calling the inventions unsafe, untested, even dangerous to human health. Stories of accidents, some real, others fabricated, were broadcast endlessly. Governments imposed regulations that made it nearly impossible to sell or install the devices legally. Yet, black markets thrived. What was once hidden in back-alley workshops became mainstream in underground networks, where free energy devices were traded like priceless contraband. In Africa, the inventors became both heroes and targets. Some were invited to global summits, hailed as visionaries. Others lived under constant threat, requiring armed protection. But together, they stood firm. They reminded the world that this revolution was never about profit, it was about liberation. Energy belongs to all, one inventor declared at a press conference, his words echoing across the internet. No corporation, no government, no empire has the right to own the sun, the air, or the Earth's natural forces. Then came the breaking point. A coalition of oil-dependent nations attempted to push through a global ban on unregulated free energy technologies, citing international safety concerns. But the move backfired spectacularly. Millions across the globe staged protests. In capitals from Lagos to London, from Sao Paulo to Seoul, crowds filled the streets, carrying homemade devices as symbols of defiance. The message was clear: the age of energy monopolies was over.